Very good evening once again, and welcome to this next session on healthcare, pharma, and medical devices sector. On behalf of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, we are very pleased to welcome all the participants once again from India and from the US. I would now request our Regional Vice President, Mr. J. Seelan, also the director of the companies Neurochemicals Private Limited, Delvin Formulations, Hypro Healthcare Private Limited, etc., to take forward and moderate this session and chair this session and introduce the panel of speakers to the audience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sujata. First and foremost, appreciation to Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for organizing this wonderful virtual expo along with the panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, a formal good morning, whoever is listening from US, a good evening to all colleagues who are in India. Now we are going into a healthcare, a panel discussion on healthcare, pharma and medical devices. Very apt one for the current situation. I'm sure last 2 years, we are all talking about more on health than anything else. And this pandemic, thanks to all the healthcare professionals, first to the doctors, medical professionals who have dedicated their entire life energy towards saving trillions and trillions of people, thanks to the pharma industry who supported them and the medical devices who have brought a lot of supporting for this overcoming this pandemic. So today we have stalwarts from different department of pharmaceuticals, healthcare and medical devices. And I would like to first introduce and invite our Consulate General, Dr. Swati Vijay Kulkarni, Consulate General of India, Atlanta. And Dr. Swati is a career diplomat who holds MBBS herself. So who else will be better than her to talk about healthcare? I mean, in this panel discussion, she's a previous overseas assignments were first secretary in High Commission of India, London, and first secretary in the High Commission of India, Port Louis, Mauritius, and as a third secretary in Embassy of India of Spain. So Dr. Kulkarni is married to Mr. Vijay Jayan Kulkarni and has 2 daughters. And I would request her to make the opening remarks on this panel on healthcare, pharma and medical device sector. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Mr. J. Seelan. Thanks for your kind words. Warm greetings to all of you from Atlanta. And it's always a pleasure for me to speak at IACC events. I know that you people really work hard to make the successful program. So as you are aware, I have I spoke on previous occasions also. So Southeast is an area where we are dealing with 6 states and 2 territories. So 6 states we have they are Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, and 2 exotic ones are Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. So in our jurisdiction, we have 450,000 Indian Americans, and within that community, Indian doctors, they are also represented in a major way. So every 7th patient in our jurisdiction is treated by Indian American doctors, and their expertise is recognized by everybody. Any political dignitary, corporate leader I speak to, they will always say how safe they feel with Indian doctors. So that's the reputation our Indian American community has. And our region has also seen a significant momentum on trade and investment sector. You know, as far as the trade is concerned, in 2019, the trade was $14.5 billion. In 2020, it was $13.4 billion. And in 2021, we have seen a sharp rebound. So it is $17.8 billion. And in that, the health sector is a important pillar of the trade, what we have seen. Also, the investment front, there are at least 160 companies, medium, small, big ones. Manufacturing are in a big way. So there are 54 manufacturing companies and rest are in services. So they have helped in creating 12,500 jobs here. Also, the Southeast companies are also in India. They are in computer sectors, manufacturing, and they have invested in India and they are doing a good business. At least 100 plus companies are from Georgia who are doing good business in India. So our Indian doctors are so successful. They have invested so much into healthcare sector. They have invested in hotel motel industry. They are in banks. I can see some cardiologists. They are running successful bank in Atlanta. So our community has done very well in this part of region. And I have some states like Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama. They are coming very good as far as healthcare sector is concerned. Let us take example of Florida, Orlando, or just take Alabama, the University of Alabama, or Nashville in Tennessee, of course Atlanta in Georgia. So all these states, they are going into these medical devices research and development. So in these states, actually what we have seen is that universities act as a focal point for all the research. So the startups accelerated program and those things, they happen at university, and local chambers of commerce, they also work with them. So we hope that our national education policy will help in building this successful model in India, where IICC and chambers of commerce can also work in association with universities and help us in doing the required R&D what we need in India. And there are various fairs, like Florida has International Medical Expo, where our people can take part and see how they can get more market for their products like pharma and all that. So as you all are aware that global healthcare industry, it's showing always, it's a sunrise sector and it's showing so much of growth. 5% year on year rate of growth is there. In Asia, it is more, 7% annual rate of growth. In India, we have seen that our market is also booming. The US is a 3.7 trillion market and expected to go to 4.7 trillion market in few years. And Indian market, which is $100 billion plus industry, is supposed to grow with a $370 billion industry in next few years. So health sector of India is $60 billion industry. Pharmaceutical is $30 billion industry. So I always tell my Americans when I speak with them that every third pill you are taking, it's made in India. So because we have made so much of space in their market, the generic space in vaccines, and we are the ones, we have the largest US FDA compliant plants. Also the medical tourism, it's also growing. I have seen people, American people, coming to me asking me for medical visas, going for various treatment like knee transplant and heart operations and things like that. So apart from our Ayurveda and home care market, these pharmaceutical medical tourism, they are important between India and US. So let me tell you about India-US health collaboration as such. See, we have collaboration in therapeutics, diagnostics, curative aspect of medicine. Then there are 200 plus NIH funded projects where our scientists and their scientists are working nicely. So there is a huge knowledge network between India and USA, which is already existent. Then we have certain, just to give you examples, we have programs in non-communicable diseases where we are having MOU in cancer research. We are fostering collaborative efforts in preventive and treatment of diabetes. We have programs in vision research. Then in communicable diseases, of course, it's a famous vaccine action program where we have done rotavirus vaccine, which is which is so cost effective, and we are exporting to Africa and third countries also. Then we are working on malaria vaccine, TB vaccine, and dengue vaccine. Then of course the CDC is doing their bit in India, and US aid is also doing in India. They have good programs as far as family planning and TB programs are concerned at national, state, and district level. So there are many potential areas where we can collaborate. If, for example, in non-communicable disease, we can learn from US how we can do better in vision research and diabetes, and also we can exchange our best practices too. Then we can also learn how the mental health, as they have done so good in the mental health scenario also, where we can replicate that in India. And as far as the communicable diseases is concerned, the influenza vaccine, the malaria vaccine, and of course now the COVID vaccine, where we are already doing a lot of work. Then we can also learn, as far as medical devices are concerned, how to have standards, regulations, CGMP requirements, then skilling and human resources, and also of course the reproductive health and child care, the neonatal sick units, and how they have done beautifully, and how we can learn on all those things. And now in this scenario of COVID, where we have transformed and fast-tracked digital health. So digital health, how we can have those legal regulations. We already have DISHA, so that regulation is there. So how to fine tune it? How to have a reimbursement when there is digital encounter between patient and a physician? How to go about building a patient life cycle on a digital basis, the digital health records. So, what we can see, that there are immense opportunities for us, and for us US is a really important trade partner in various sectors, including healthcare sector. It is an important source of our foreign direct investment, and over the years we have a solid infrastructure with US, where a long-standing health collaboration is already existent. We have convergence as far as the bilateral is concerned, as far as the Quad is concerned, or as far as the multilateral format is concerned. Then we have unique synergies. The US has a cutting edge technology. We have skilled manpower. So all this can be combined. So I feel that those who are already doing business in India, then business in US, they have to strengthen it, augment it, and then those who are not there, then they have to learn the US business culture, how to go about doing the business, what are the tax system here, what are the banking laws, the labor laws, insurance, and things like that. So they can have a CPA firm which can handhold them. We are here to facilitate them. So see, as far as consulate is concerned, we are really focusing on how to double our current bilateral trade between India and US. Our trade is right now is $160 billion. So how to double it? And healthcare sector gives us a real opportunity where we can do it. You can also focus on major healthcare supply chains here, which are dominated by Indian-American doctors. That is another area where we can learn. So government is also trying to see how we expand our exports, because this time we had a $400 billion export target. So next year we will have more ambitious one. So healthcare will give us an important component for achieving our dreams and aspirations. So I take this opportunity to congratulate IICC for organizing this event, providing a platform where we can have a productive discussion, a useful discussion, where we can talk, exchange ideas, and see how we can expand our market, how we can achieve what we want to achieve. And we are here, my officer is here, I am here, my marketing assistant is there, so we can facilitate. We can let you know what exactly the scenario is, what sort of dates for the medical expos which happen in various parts of this world, and things like that. So let us nurture this engagement, because the cooperation is growing, trade is expanding, and many opportunities are there. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Doctor. I am sure you have set the ball on rolling for this panel discussion, and we are very happy to see the contributions of Indians, particularly doctors and pharmaceutical companies, where you mentioned every seventh patient has been healed or treated by an Indian doctor. It's a proud moment. To add it, you also mentioned the fact that every third pill taken by the patients or whoever there in US are from India. Really, we are proud to listen to this, and we are very thankful. You mentioned the various collaborative strategies which can be adopted by the current exporters, also for the newcomers who are listening to this panel discussion. Thanks for offering help and guidance from your office as well. And it was a wonderful startup speech. Her Excellency Dr. Swati Vijay Kulkarni, on behalf of IACC, I express our gratitude and thanks for your time and your opening remarks. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to further discuss more in depth about this panel, and we are now going to talk more on pharmaceutical, where our Consulate General has already told every third pill taken in US is from India, which means what? In pharmaceutical industry, India is proudly known as pharmacy of the world. And 35% of our exports goes to a country which is US. As she mentioned, India has the highest number of US FDA approved facility also. And Indian pharma is growing in double digit, over 18% last year with $25 billion. So every third to fourth year we'll double our sale or exports. And with this, I think we are going to hear more about pharma from a real stalwart who is having experience in every nook and corner of pharma. He is one person who has produced highest quantity of ibuprofen and ranitidine, which are so common. I'm sure every person in the world would have taken at least one tablet through his facility. Here is Mr. Abhaya Shrishmal Jain, chairman of multiple companies, Lifecell International Private Limited, as a founder of Shafshun Group, various companies under his fold. Sales have crossed US 1 billion and revenue, which is not easy. Just started from the scratch, and he is a billionaire. He has made his company with the highest production of these medicines, and he is an industrialist, social educationist for over 3.5 decades, a chemical engineering graduate from Madras University, and he also pioneered a lot of new initiatives like Lifecell, which is a pioneering company in the field of stem cells. It is the #1 company in India. With all these things, a single man having multiple talents, here is Mr. Abhay Kumar. We call him as Abhaya. Sir, over to you. Highlight on pharma, whatever you have achieved, and it will be useful for the listeners. Thank you. Please. Sir, you are in mute, sir. Please remove the mute.
Okay, am I audible now? Okay, I thank IACC for arranging this wonderful panel discussion. And thank you, Jaisalanji, as usual, for your highly, good introduction about me. I've been in the industry for the last 45 years, and I thought I should cover for a few minutes about the past and then talk about the present and then talk about what the future is going to be like. In the past, when I started 45 years ago, everybody knows that India was importing more than 80 to 90% of their drug requirement in 1975. So I started my career in pharma in 1976 when everything, whatever you manufacture in India was saleable. So in a sense, it was a seller's market. And India was importing most of the drug. The Indira Gandhi, removed that patent treaty and said that we will not honor the patent. And that is where the growth of the generic industry started. Now, this gap, this opportunity which came to India in terms of supplying generics was a big opportunity, and that is where the pharma industry really started growing. When Jaisalanji says that we are, the pharmacy to the world, every third pill is being manufactured in India, this is present scenario. But the past, where everybody was struggling, really, and then to re-engineer and introduce products is much easier. And the rush to, become successful, people, started filing ANDAs. They wanted to be sure that they are the first approval drug and they get the 6 months priority. In that rush, Indian pharmacy industry made few mistakes. And the data integrity issue came, and we had a lot of issues with the pharma industry. But today, I can tell you very confidently that pharma industry has matured a lot in terms of regulatory compliance, in terms of meeting the standards. And that is where the opportunity for the next phase of growth or next, where we should move to see that we maintain this lead. There are a lot of areas where Indian companies need to focus to see that they move from the generic side to the side where they can say that, yes, we are definitely now confident of producing our own drugs also. Like Bharat Biotech has shown to the world that we can produce our own vaccine, get it approved at the shortest time from the regulatory side from India, and safely introduce vaccine to the Indian people. Today, the Indian industry India is respected world over because of their innovation, because of the speed of delivery, because of the quality of delivery also. Now, Indian industry has grown from, as being the largest number of USFDA approved companies. All that sounds very good. But I'm always worried about what next. What next is what we should be really thinking of. And in terms of using our knowledge on the computer side. See, we have not even exploited much of the area where we can use our knowledge on the IT side. Of course, we have been providing a lot of IT services to the industry, but how can we use this for data mining, data analytics, and work on drugs which are already approved, but find an alternate therapeutic use for it? Like, we have not exploited that US FDA 505(b)(2) provision or the European Article 10(3) provision to see that we introduce drugs which have an alternate therapy where you get a limited period of exclusivity, 3 years, to make the money. That investment in research today is very, very essential. Two, if we have to really think of the future, we have to think that yes, biopharmaceuticals are becoming 50% of the API market. Now, if the biopharmaceuticals are becoming the API, are going to consume 50% of the API market, how do we ensure that we take the lead? I'm so pained that, even after so many years and saying that we are the pharmacy to the world, we are still not producing a single kilo of clavulanic acid or potassium clavulonate in our country, where we still depend on imports. It is just an example I'm giving you. But there are a lot of other biopharmaceuticals where India still depends on imports. Why are we not focusing on that? We should focus on that. We should focus to see that a lot of, a separate department in pharmacy should be created, or the pharmacy in the government, to see that innovation is encouraged. Now, innovation, when they encourage, they have to also be not restricting the price controls on these drugs, which are new, which can be affordable. And they should encourage industry to see that they spend more on R&D. New technologies, the country should take the lead in stem cell technology. The Japanese government has given so much provision for the stem cell technology to be practiced and established. Whereas we are caught in the regulatory maze where we really don't encourage industry to participate in the stem cell. We have taken the lead in that. Nanotechnology is another area which is going to be the future. How much of money is being spent to see that these nanotechnology drugs are brought to the forefront, which are far more effective than the current drugs? Now, if we can establish the efficacy and evidence-based medicine, if it can be given, I think we can create a revolution in the entire industry. We are always blamed that we don't encourage, we have not introduced a single drug. How will we introduce a single drug unless the innovation is encouraged, unless the government gives a regulatory approval on a much faster route, like what they have done for vaccine? Had they gone by the regular regulatory route to approve the vaccine, it would have taken years. Now you get the approval because of the Prime Minister's intervention. You get the approval in 6 months. Now, how can we not use the same theory when we say that we have 5,000 years of Ayurvedic knowledge? Why are these knowledge base are not gone through evidence based? I'm not saying the clinical trial should not be ended. Now only they have put up the clinical trial approval process for Ayurvedic drugs. This should have been done much earlier. This should have been done on nanotechnology also. Only guidelines have been made. Not the nanotechnology mission, which the Prime Minister of India has promised that we will introduce more than 500 patents. I'm telling you, not a single drug has been approved on the nanotechnology front. Only recently we have got an approval to use it as a food safety or food preservation. Now, there are many areas where these technologies can be exploited. There are many areas, like personalized medicines, diagnostic tools, use of AI data mining and data analytics are large opportunities for Indian industry to really explore and go beyond the present status. Let us not keep boasting ourselves that we are the third in the largest, but value-wise, where are we? Our exports are 60 billion, and the pharma sale in USA is 4 trillion. So whatever we contribute, we say that every third medicine, we are selling it cheap. I mean, there is no innovation which is happening. In the next mantra, if we have to survive, is the positive encouragement the Indian industry have because of the impact of China. Now, China is not regarded as a preferred supplier. Now, this status has to be exploited. How do we exploit this? How do we see that we produce the best of the drugs and supply not only to America? People think that America is a big profitable market. There are other markets like Japan, Korea, Taiwan. I'm telling you, there are many other countries where you get better paid than even America. Why are we not exploiting it? I think these are the times when we should really take bold steps. The government of India needs to encourage subsidized subsidy for innovation, and probably a lot of grant has to be given. Like, today the government of India has realized, and they had started the PLI scheme. PLI schemes where they have allotted 10,000 crores. Pharmaceutical clusters are being encouraged. They have allotted 15,000 crores. Now, these should become the epicenter for the growth of innovation. Now, IDPL was the first center in Hyderabad, which today the whole Hyderabad is known as the pharmacy to the world. Why? Because there was money spent by the government of India in putting up IDPL there. Like that, in Tamil Nadu, we had the medical device, but medical device has not grown. Technology has grown. See, technology in IT has changed the medical scenario, medical device scenario. Unless we keep up ourselves on that, it will be very difficult to see that we take the lead in the modern medical diagnostic field. There are huge opportunities. I only conclude my saying by saying that industry has huge scope to grow, provided they are self-regulated, meeting the highest, meeting the health, safety, and governance. Governance include no data integrity in their manufacturing site. And with the manpower, the skilled manpower we have, with the knowledge we have, with the available resources we have, machineries we have, I think there is no dearth to see that we succeed in the next gen and keep the lead for the next 50 years to see that we are still continue to be the pharmacy to the entire world. I think a lot of innovation can happen. I thank everybody for giving me this opportunity. If there are any question answer sessions, I'm sure Jaishalan can take over. But it's time I have to leave now. And I'll see you all soon. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you very much, sir. Wonderful speech. You have done wonderfully well. I don't think any questions would be there. We will work on innovation, what you suggested. Finally, you finished with a clue to the next speaker about medical device. So we'll go to that. Thank you. Thanks for participating in this panel discussion on behalf of IACC.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy journey, sir. Thank you very much. Colleagues, now it was a wonderful talk by Mr. Abhay Kumar. And definitely what he said is right. As a pharmacy of the world, we are proud, but in future, we cannot just manufacture and sell economic drugs. What he has highlighted for the young entrepreneurs and the scientists or other attendees here, we should work on innovation. As he mentioned, we are having Siddha Ayurveda for over 5,000 years, and most of the currently used drugs are from plant sources. And who can do better research in that than Indians? And so the clue was given by him, and I'm sure it's our responsibility to take the industry to the next level. Now we are going to the most important part of our panel discussion. Our CG talked about the healthcare professionals and the contribution by them. Mr. Abhay clearly told he literally made a SWOT analysis on pharma industry, and he highlighted the importance of innovation and using technology into pharma. Now, friends, on medical devices, which is a sunrise industry, every Indian state government, central government, everybody is very eager to talk about medical devices. Many states, including Tamil Nadu, announced a policy for medical device, and medical device parks announced. But friends, there is a long gap in understanding, because as the previous speaker told, most of the time we are using medical devices which was invented abroad and with CE certification, all those things. But what is the way ahead? How to increase? And most of the time it's from US and we are importing and still using. If you ask doctors, we are exporting to the globe, and even in India, we have achieved the self-sustainability. If you ask medicine, pharma, yeah, we have achieved independency. But in medical device, there is a long gap to go. We need to learn a lot of things. And here is a scientist, Dr. Krishnan Chakravarti, who is going to take us through on medical device more. And regarding Mr. Krishnan Chakravarti, he is a MD, PhD, is an anesthesiologist who specializes in multimodal pain management. He did his residency training in anesthetics at the world-renowned Johns Hopkins Hospital. Dr. Chakravarti earned his medical and doctorate degree from University at Buffalo School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. He has published over 100 plus works, national and international award winner in pain medicine. He serves on the executive advisory board of many US Fortune 500 medical device companies and sits on the editorial board of several national and international journals. Who else can discuss and talk about medical devices? Over to you, sir, Dr. Krishnan Chakravarti, please.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. Thank you, Sir Jay Sheelan, for this opportunity. Thank you for the Indian Chamber of Commerce for this. And a special thanks to both my father, Vijay Chakravarti, as well as Prabhu, who spoke yesterday. You know, I am a product, I think, of a very interesting time in history that my father, when he first came in the 80s, I had the opportunity to grow up in the United States. And I think these type of conversations are a fantastic component of how do we foster the growth and the capitalism that the US market has seen in all these different device sectors and bring it back for a international collaboration. A little bit about my background. I started in started in finance, and I went to University of Buffalo, where I trained in my PhD time. I spent some time working at the CDC, looking at development of viral vaccines and using nanotechnology, which has been a common buzzword that we're hearing. And my first startup experience came in looking at quantum dot technology as biological fluorophores. And at that time, that experience really segued into the challenges of building medical devices in the United States from a regulatory, from a component of how do you look at manufacturing and scalability. And I'm fortunate today that after post-training, I've got a very diverse background in terms of both the entrepreneurial as well as the medical side. But I see patients 3 days of the week. I am able to work through different startups, and I consult for a lot of the medical device companies in the US, including Medtronic, Abbott. And I think that one of the consistent themes is that the United States serves as one of the largest markets in the world for a lot of the medical devices. And the biggest challenge for companies in the US as well as international is the regulatory framework for new device entry. No matter what the innovations are, you look at stem cells with where the FDA currently stands to medical devices that are approved through 510(k) pathways. The ultimate challenge for most innovation in the US is still that most applications is a 7 to 10 year time course for entry into market. I'm looking at a space that's interventional pain today is probably the fastest growing medical field in the United States. The current opiate epidemic, was a massive epidemic in the US where the global hydrocodone supply was about 99%. And prior to the COVID pandemic, the US sole focus from a public health perspective was how to change the landscape of how people were treating the opiate crisis that really fueled new technology and new innovation. And I jokingly say that as a faculty professor and for the students I teach in the medical school, today you have to learn a new technique or product every 6 months. So I'll give you a good instance of one area that I've been very interested in, which is the space of neuromodulation. And I think if a lot of people are following the work today, I think there was a beautiful article in the BBC that some of that work has led to completely paralyzed patients walking again. We are getting to the point of sophistication where a lot of these devices are groundbreaking in the outcomes that they're looking at, whether it's getting people that are completely paralyzed walking to what we are developing now, which is looking at neural sensing interfaces that are recording data in real time. I think we are seeing a tremendous push for IoT, digital health, and big data in the US, in addition to looking at FDA approval. So I've been very fortunate. I have multiple startups, one that is taking a product commercial this year. And I can tell you that still the biggest challenge in the US is that we still, beyond the regulatory challenges, it is why California seems to be a hub for a lot of the growing startups and the type of infrastructure is great talent. We have always been very fortunate in the United States to have immigrants that are at the top of all of their subject specialties. And as businesses continue to recruit them, I think getting those idea of new technology back into India is a really great opportunity for partnerships. So open to any questions. I mean, I think there's a wealth of different things that there's a cross collaboration internationally, but very excited to be here from that perspective.
Very nice, Doctor. We would like to, I have a small question with you. See, we understand a lot of medical devices, we are depending on US, right? Technology, most of the time, unlike medicines, it's been imported from the US and we are used. How do you think India should use this opportunity, whether any possibility would be available for us to manufacture these medical devices in India for a better quality, better price matching the quality? One question. Second question is whether, since a lot of scientists and young engineers and pharmaceutical doctors all are here in India, how about collaborative research for medical devices between both countries?
Yeah, so very, very good question. You know, I look at what I've seen consistently is that China has done a very good job understanding the regulatory concerns on the manufacturing side for medical IoT devices in the United States. It's not just, you look at the big Fortune 500 companies like Apple that outsource a lot of the stuff to Foxconn in China. And people say jokingly that why is it that they get these manufacturing done there? And one part is price per unit cost. And I look at a lot of my devices, the same cost for production here in the United States versus outsourcing it into different parts of the world makes a huge difference. Now, the challenge is that the regulatory bodies that allow for medical device production in any other part of the world has to meet some standards, whether it's their ISO certification. So part of it is that there is a great opportunity for collaboration where large manufacturing firms in India could work with tech companies in the United States like ourselves that would be looking at that partnership to say, okay, if we meet the set standards, can we produce a given unit at a fraction of the price? The second part of that is, I think, one part I say is feasibility. So a lot of the work that we're doing is in very small device manufacturing concepts. So we're looking at things that are in the 0.5 to 1 cc, 10 micron types of projects where the IoT devices are very, very small, easily compatible with different end use applications. The challenge with that is the fabrication as well as the technical knowledge. I think that is an effort on collaboration where we would have to essentially go there, translate that, and work with specific partners there that would be interested in that. So what I'm getting to is, one is the idea of interest from a capability perspective, but also I think training is an important part. So I think there needs to be more cross-functional supply chain training that happens between both India and the United States to help foster that. And I think at this point, it's really industry here in the US that really would want to do that. Now, I will give you the flip side. I sit on the executive board of Medtronic, and I recently spoke with Jeff Martha, their global CEO, at a recent conference. And I know Medtronic India has done a fantastic job. It's booming. But, you know, still there's a large impetus from his standpoint to keep manufacturing in the US because of a lot of quality control. The threshold here for, I will tell you from a medical legal perspective, is very, very high. Med devices have a very big quality control impact that needs to be met for something to be adopted clinically and commercially. So I think that's where there presents a very nice opportunity to really change that conversation, I think.
Your point, yeah, go ahead.
And then the second question was, for a lot of the research, I do think we write a lot of National Institute of Health grants. I think there is absolutely a fantastic opportunity to cross collaborate. I think one is a point of access. You know, a lot of the national meetings and international meetings, I would love to see more of our Indian colleagues come and present there, and likewise to have the opportunity to go to India and present. I think sometimes it just becomes very siloish in terms of just access points on where those collaborations are done. That being said, I can tell you that the world is becoming more and more globalized. I don't think the day where you're in a lab by yourself in a university writing a grant it's no longer the case. I think you have to have multidisciplinary type of projects that include engineering, medicine. You know, the cross collaboration seems to be where a lot of the funding is. But certainly, you know, I think there are opportunities where I tell, if you're in the medical field, don't hesitate to go to the big industry companies with ideas. There's always a concern that, you know, IP protection and your idea versus not. But I think one of the lessons learned is you have to be willing to look at multiple sources for ways to fund innovation. I think whether it's in the private sector or through government agencies that are funding these projects.
Well said, Doctor. As I understood, for the first question of manufacturing opportunity of medical device, the most important thing you said is about understanding the regulatory challenges and compliance. Since we all know that for pharma and for vaccines, we are the powerhouse for manufacturing, I hope our industry will be able to cope up, and definitely a reverse brain drain can happen through big people, consultants like you, and companies from India can always opt for it. It's a good input. And as far as innovation is concerned, very important point you made is like the cross collaboration between all things. As you said, India is very good at IT. We have all science, healthcare professionals, but cross collaboration between electronics engineers, biomedical engineers, IT firms, pharmaceutical, healthcare, Only then, with added money coming in, grants, then we can go into innovation. That's a very important point what you said. Doctor, only one thing I just added, I want to ask about you about the see, India is because of the population and the various health concerns, a huge amount of data in terms of, say, diabetic, we are the capital of diabetes, cardiac, all those data are available in India. And a lot of hospitals, digital healthcare companies, all are working on, I mean, they are having a lot of data, frankly speaking, without knowing much what to do with that data. Any idea, any suggestion from our end how to use it fruitfully?
Yeah, one wonderful question, because this is the buzzword everybody talks about is big data being a critical part. I think that's a very valid point. I'll give you a couple of examples of major breakthroughs. The Freestyle Libre from Abbott, which was a diabetic monitoring, and they presented at the CES annual meeting. One thing is that innovation has to answer a critical problem. And I think that collecting data in the absence of trying to answer a question, at the end of the day, it says data is data unless it's got a meaningful endpoint. So what I would say is two parts to this. I think data collection is very, very important at big hospital systems, but also data collection within the context of what are specific, whether it's looking at med devices that are asking for a specific problem to be solved or an area to be identified that needs to be solved, I think is critical. So I'll give you a good example. Diabetes is a huge problem in the United States. Pharma companies are outsourcing, looking at ways to not looking at new compounds and the effect of that, but really looking at med IoT devices for treating glucose maintenance. The challenge is that data collection in the United States, there's so much that comes with HIPAA compliance, ways that the cost of a trial today in the US for any pharma company to develop is close to about $750 million through all of the clinical trials and the regulatory. So the nice part of having a large patient subset, something to the effect of looking at diabetes in a large population, is you can aggregate that data very quickly. But quality measures of how you're collecting the data and the consistency, as well as how that data is measured, is going to be very important. So a lot of this came back to, I think we looked at some of the, it's interesting with COVID, some of the outcomes data in large countries. Israel was one of the most commonly cited. And was it any particular to that place or not? I think where it comes down to is the rigor with which data is collected is a large part of the governing decisions that a lot of the different journals that go into the medical societies dictate. So I think that opportunity to work with medical societies, partnerships with industry, I think is fantastic, because that's a great opportunity for using IT infrastructure along with a certain disease process that you're measuring and what those outcomes mean. So I think India is at a poise to be in a very, very critical place where I think med devices are going to be as big an industry as what we define as space or any of the other ones that we hear commonly about. Biotechnology is to a large part the future. I think a lot of pharma is going to be solved by med devices that are implantable, sensors. There's just so much out there that I think is a very unique way to look at it.
Well said, doctor. I'm sure with all these things, our life expectancy will be growing, because as you said, a lot of drugs will be replaced by small medical devices in multiple diseases. I'm sure Dr. Krishnan Chakravarti, the Assistant Clinical Professor of Anesthesiology, University of California, is here, who has briefed us on medical device importance, its innovation, compliance, regulatory compliance, etc. On behalf of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Doctor, thanks for your time. And I'm sure it's a very interesting, and you have a huge knowledge on that. I have a personal request with you. Anytime you are traveling across India, when you are coming, please inform our IACC. We would like to have a personal interactive meeting, because a lot of young companies which are particularly from South and Tamil Nadu, all are working for medical devices. They would be very eager to talk with you directly and get clarifying their doubts. So welcome.
I'll say this. I think in the old days, the dream for most Indians used to be come to the United States, become a physician here, and build a practice and look at it that way. And I encourage, for the people that are listening and for all those that are looking at this, India has a wealth of opportunities. If the infrastructure is there, India can really foster the talents. And the reality is that I look at how many Indians are successful physicians and scientists and businessmen here. I think there's no reason that India couldn't foster that idea that you have to come here to get the same opportunities. So, I think that any opportunity to set that up, to give that advice, I have done it many a times, and I'm happy to provide that. But I really appreciate this conversation. I think these are wonderful questions, and hopefully it'll spark more interesting engagement.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for your assurance for future interaction as well. So time for us to conclude our panel discussion on healthcare, pharma, and medical devices. It was really interesting. The stalwarts from each sector have spoken, and we have the next session soon, using technology for growth. Here also, our panelists have repeatedly talking about technologies in medical, pharma, everywhere. And the next session is full about using technology for growth is there. And on behalf of IACC, I thank every audience who have come and listened to this panel discussion. Here I have a personal appeal to all of you. Please visit our virtual stall. There is a virtual expo there. Multiple stalls are there, so you can have contacts of each company there. So I request you to visit that. With this, I thank for the opportunity given for me to take care of this panel, and over to Sujata for the next session. Thank you.